Hello everyone, and welcome back to Filmora for Basics for Beginners, and we are going to continue off where we left off from our previous lesson, which I was showing you about color. So this will be our second lesson on color and what you can do with color. And on this lesson, I'm going to show you the other options which we could not cover in our previous lesson because we were running out of time. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see, I have opened up our previous lesson where we used and edited a clip and split the clip in various options. But for this lesson, for this color lesson, the second color lesson that I'm going to go through for you, this will be like about HSL and the other options which were available underneath color. So I'm going to go ahead and first import a clip over here. As you can see, now we have HSL curves and color wheels, which I'm going to go through, but before that, I'm going to go ahead and trim it to 10 seconds over here or 20 seconds over here, just to show you what we can do with all the other effects of or all the other utilities and tools with color. So I'm going to go ahead and fit it to my timeline over here, and then in the color segment we're going to go to HSL. So HSL is basically hue, saturation, and luminance. So hue, saturation, and luminance are basically, as you can guess, the hue. It changes the hue, the saturation, and the luminance of the video clip. Now these are the same cases for any kind of photos as well. So if you were to change this, let's say you have a still photo over here, and if you were to change the hue, saturation, and luminance, it will also change how the colors look like in hue, saturation, and luminance for that specific photo or clip or video. So now, as you can see over here, there are a lot of variations of colors: red, orange. Then you have like a bit yellowish green or yellow. Then you have green. Then you have cyan. You have like a purple. You have pink, and you have a little bit navy blue. If I were to make a guess of that color is. And then as you can see, this is HSL. I have enabled it. So hue, saturation, and luminance. If I were to adjust anything, it will adjust how the hue, the saturation, and the luminance works. And there are different kinds of colors. As you can see, I've changed the hue to a bit more pinkish. Now the color of the car of the Lamborghini in my video clip over here was red, right? So now as I change the hue for the redness, the color of the red for the hue in my clip also changed to pink. As you can see, it's changing. If I were to decrease the saturation, the color of my vehicle will also change the saturation as well. The parking sign over here is red, and also the and also the color of the vehicle over here, the Lamborghini here, is also red. So in this entire clip, you have two colors with redness in it: the parking sign and the vehicle over here. So as you can see, I decreased the saturation, and it decreased the saturation of my vehicle as well, and also the parking as well. Now, if I were to go to orange and change anything, nothing of that color will change in my entire clip here, because we rarely have any kinds of shades of orange color inside our clip over here. So HSL will only change the colors that are present inside the video, and you can also save your settings as custom settings as well. As you can see, you all have the save as custom settings at the bottom right corner. So let's make our Lamborghini a bit more pinkish, and you have the luminance as well. So as you can see, if I were to explain it, so the luminancy will increase the brightness of the color from like dark to white. So the luminance will affect the whiteness and the darkness of the color. As you can see over here, you have dark red to mid to pale white red, then white. So if I were to make it really dark, it will make the color of the car very dark. It looks like a metallic color. And I can turn off and turn on to make you see the difference between the two while editing the HSL. And as you can see, if I were to turn off and turn on, the white shades of our entire clip changes. As you can see, the walk path for humans over here, or the footpath or the sidewalk, more or less, changes the color as well, because we have a bit of shade of reddish hue on the sidewalk as well, but that is barely noticeable. But once we change and work around with the hue, we can see the difference that it's making. So I'll just decrease the saturation up a bit so that the vehicle retains its hue color, which I've changed, but the pink color for the sidewalk, or the color for the sidewalk, goes away if I were to decrease down the saturation. If I were to increase the luminosity a bit, as you can see, it became bright pinkish color because of the hue to be very dark. I'll just keep that at the middle so that everything looks neat and clean. And you can work with HSL to figure out what kind of color ranges that your clip has. And as you can see, I went to the cyan color because the sky behind this is like cyan type color, right? So it will change the shades a bit. Now if I were to play it and turn off and turn on to see, as you can see, there is the difference between the two. You can change how the entire video looks like and feels like if you were to go ahead, use HSL and change or edit or modify how your clip looks like. And depending on what you are visioning or what you have as a vision for your clip will come out very unique as well. The more creativity that you can inspire yourself while making or editing videos like this. I'm going to go ahead and import another video, and I'm just going to trim it and match this video over here and make it so that it's like 10 seconds over here. Now we're going to work with curves. Now, as you can see, the curves is enabled and you have 3 forms of curves: the red, the green, the blue. So I'm going to go back over here and keep playing it to see. I'll turn it to half quality so that it renders much more faster. So I'm going to go to where most of the greens of this video is shown, and I'm going to go to curves over here. So the Y curve over here, the line over here represents the whiteness, the Y that is. If I were to like click and drag on any part of this white curve, it's going to change how the light works or how the whiteness works, and you can see the chart or the graph where the whiteness is shown here. The entire spectrum. So if I were to increase this, as you can see, and you can also see the amount of blue, green, and red is affecting the video. So let's say you want to decrease the red over here, you can go to the red segment and you can change it or lower it down to however you want. And as you can see, the white started increasing and the red is a bit decreased because, as you can see in the clip, at the beginning, because of the brownness, you can see the red, green, and blue color. Because the red, green, and blue color like mixed together creates whiteness, and white has all the spectrums of the colors, right? So that's why the curves over here represents only 4 colors: white, red, green, and blue. White affects the red, green, and blue, and you can specifically edit the red, green, and blue from any part of this video clip as well. And as you can see, because of the blue and the green, the redness or the brownness, which is in between redness, is low in the clip. So now I can also select the eyedropper tool and select the color over here, and it's going to point, and it's going to create a point on my curve over here. So that color or that light part over there is from that point which has been newly created on my curve. And as you can see, now 3 points have been selected. 1 point I've created and adjusted manually, and the 2 points were added through the eyedropper tool over here. As you can see, if I were to go ahead and change those specific tones which I have selected using the eyedropper tool, it will affect directly those specific colors of tones from that clip. Now I'm going to go ahead and play it, and as you can see, the changes I've made have already been applied to the entire video. And I can also reset everything using that reset icon. Now red over here, as you can see, if I were to increase or decrease the red, it will increase the redness, the green as well, and the blue as well. And if I were to increase everything like this together, it basically affects the whiteness as well. That's this is one of the reasons why, like, instead of just red, blue, green and blue curve, you also have the white curve. Because if you want to change all the curves together in one point, instead of doing that, which is tedious, you can go ahead and use the white curve to adjust it to whatever you want it to adjust to. So if I were to increase all of them together, it will increase the overall brightness. So you can control specific colors, the shades of those colors, the brightness and the contrast of those colors with the darkness of those specific colors as well. Now, as you can see, the adjustments which I made are like giving it a much more clearer type of shade of color. And that is basically how curves work. And I'm going to add another clip over here and trim it back to 10 seconds, and now I'm gonna use like color wheel. So color wheels over here, as you can see, color wheels are basically the same as like basic HSL or curves, but instead of this, you have highlights, midtones, and shadows. Now highlights are the high tones, which I mentioned before, midtones are the midtones, and the shadows are the darker parts of the image or the clip or the video. Now you have several options over here, as you can see. And the color wheels, now if you were to go ahead and click and drag anywhere in the color wheel for any segment over here for highlights, midtones, or shadows, he's going to go ahead and change the color of the entire video for that specific color, for that specific tone. And you have the brightness as well, highlights, midtones, and shadows. As I mentioned before, how highlights, like you can use change highlights to change the high tones. Midtones, if you were to change anything, it's going to change the midder tones or the grayish tones, and the shadows will decrease or increase the, as you see, when I adjust the settings, it will adjust those specific values. And as you can see, I can reset all of these values. And as you can see, these are the midtones. And as you can see, if I were to increase or decrease the shadows. And as you can see, I increase the midtones, which will make sure that the grayish parts are much more visible. I decrease the highlights so that the light matches with the midtones, and I decrease the shadows so that everything is now overall balanced in case of lighting, and you can see the image or the clip or the video much more clearly. And it will retain all the colors. And you can also change how the color works with the variables. As you see, if I were to hover my mouse on top of any parts here, highlights, midtones, or shadows, a marker will come up in the middle. So the middle part basically represents the whiteness, and if I were to move that middle marker anywhere, it's going to change the values, or you can manually change the values using those numbers. As you can see, the 0.00 for each case for highlights, midtones, and shadows. Those are the red, green, and blue hues. And as you can see, the shadows, I have increased it to the reddish, and every dark areas or any kind of like darkish shades in our low tones in our entire image changed. And as you can see here, you will not see any pitch black or black parts anymore. Everything is in the shade of red, entirely red, if I were to change it any color. And if I were to change every color here to yellow, highlights, midtones, and shadows, if you were to look at the video clip in the player, you will see that you cannot differentiate any color. Like there's no ash color, there's no white color, there's no brown color. Every color here inside is a shade of yellow. Now the vegetables here, you cannot say that they're green. Like they have a green hue to it, but at the end, it's a hue which also consists of the color primary yellow. Every color is a shade of yellow inside our clip now, as I've set everything to yellow. Now if I were to go ahead and change my midtones to green and keep everything to yellow, we have our greenish hue. And I'm going to just go ahead and reset everything back to default. So how do you work with color wheels? So let's say you want to change your tone to like in your entire video, you can go ahead and use everything. So the best way to use the color tools and utilities here is to adjust everything and match everything together. So you can use basic HSL, curves, and color wheels together to compromise and combine all of them together to have unique effects. So I'm going to go ahead and like change. So I'm going to give Mission Impossible. And as you can see, I've selected the protect skin tone, and it is retaining the skin tone of our character here. Let's go for a cooler temperature and then color over here. Let's go ahead and increase the exposure and brightness down a bit. So I'm going to make it less contrasty. I can also change the contrast and the brightness, or I could just increase the shadows a bit. We already have a lot of whiteness to it, but I'll go ahead and add it, and I'm going to go ahead and increase the blackness up a bit so that we have a much more clearer image and focused image, and it looks way more better than before. And I'm going to go ahead and increase the sharpness as well, so our image looks much more crisp, and the vegetables here, the leaves of the vegetables look much more crisper and sharper. Now we're going to go to HSL and go to our green segment over here, because we have a lot of greenery in our image, and as I've mentioned before, the hue, saturation, and luminance underneath HSL will affect that specific color which I've selected and which I'm going to go ahead and edit now. So I'm going to change the hue to a much more greenish shade and increase the saturation a bit so that the green vegetables here look much more vibrant. And the luminosity, I'm going to go ahead and make it darker so that the greens pop out more. Now I'll go to the curves and go to the green, and I'm going to go ahead and increase this up a bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and greenish, like a soft greenish part. And as I've mentioned before, I have turned on the protect skin tone, and as you can see, the skin tone of our character here does not change that much, even if I'm like changing how the color wheel, the curves, the HSL, and how I've adjusted the basic settings as well. The skin tone is being kept like non-changed, or being preserved, that is. So to continue onwards, as I was saying, as I've turned on the protective skin tone, the skin tone of our character does not change. So I'm going to reduce the midtones down a bit and get a bit more reddish. And for the shadows, I'm just going to increase the shadows a bit for me to see everything clearly. And then I'm going to render my entire preview by clicking on that render icon, and it's going to render my entire preview. Then I'm going to play it. And as you can see, our entire color edit is now completed, and now it's also plays very smoothly after renderation, and it also looks pretty good, neat, and clean and crisp as well. So that'll be all for this lesson, or these two lessons on color, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.